Blog Talk Radio.
Hey there! Welcome to Big Blend Radio with your hosts, Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazine.com.
Well, happy end of March 2020, everybody. Welcome to Big Blend Radio with Nancy and Lisa, the crazy mother-daughter travel team and publishers of Big Blend Magazines or Big Blend Radio and TV Magazine, and Parks and Travel Magazine. You can see them both. They're both digital. Just go to BigBlendMagazines.com. And today, as part of our Love Your Parks tour, we're stationed in 29 Palms. It's right outside Joshua Tree National Park, and we're staying at our friend Jerry Hagman's beautiful Homestead Inn, and I encourage you to check it out, especially if you're looking to buy a really cool inn. This is like the most awesome property.
Oh, it is.
She's retiring, and we get to spend some few days here before someone snags it, because it's a really beautiful property. Go to 29inn.com, but it's really, really beautiful out here. It's been a lovely day. Beautiful sunrise. Out here, so
it's nice and calm.
Yeah, very, very calm and pretty. And there's bunnies outside, and birds, and goldfinches, and
beautiful palms.
Desert iguanas are out, so it's very cool. Today we're going to go east. We're going to go to Indianapolis. Nancy, have you been to Indianapolis?
No, I have been to Indiana, but not to Indianapolis.
See, I don't know if I could say Indianapolis 3 times fast if it was our happy hour show. It's a good thing.
Probably not.
Probably not.
Probably not.
Well, today's featured guest is science fiction author Tracy Richardson, and she's joining us to talk about her young adult book series. So the first one is The Field. The second one coming out, so the ebook comes out in June, is called Catalyst. And Nancy, you've been reading that.
Yes.
And like, oh, dude, they can talk with each other without talking. And the upcoming one for next year is Indian Summer, and it's all through Brown Books Publishing. I encourage you to go to Tracy's website. It's TracyRichardsonAuthor.com. She's also on Instagram and Facebook. But welcome to the show, Tracy. How are you doing?
I am well. Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, this is exciting because I know we're going to talk a lot about Catalyst, but I want to talk about the whole series. But Catalyst really revolves around an archaeological dig site, right, on a mound. And Nancy and I got to experience our first mound last year in just outside Little Rock, the Toltec Mounds Archaeological State Park. It was just an amazing site, and it does have trippy energy. I'm just going to go there.
Yeah.
So I think this is really cool. And you know, we're so used to being in the Southwest, and so mounds kind of weren't part of our we're into geology and cliff dwellings and, that kind of thing, but we never experienced mounds. And so can you tell everybody a little bit about what a mound is?
Well, there are different kinds of mounds. So when researching the book, I visited quite a few. In southern Indiana, there's a place called Angel Mounds, which has 2 large mounds. One is where they call it the City of the Sun, and that's where the priest would live on top of it. They are not burial mounds. They align them often to celestial occurrences like the equinox and different movements of planets and stars. And then there's a mound that I also researched outside of St. Louis called Cahokia, which at the time, the surrounding area had a village of like, I don't remember how many, 20,000 people. It was bigger in the 1400s than London was. So there was a huge, in this whole Mississippi Valley area, Ohio River Valley, quite a few mound building native cultures. And there's a mound in southern Ohio called Serpent Mound, which is a very long mound, and it undulates like a serpent and has at the head of a snake. It's really cool. Yeah,
that's neat. I like it.
It's really fascinating to me because the celestial side of it. When we were in Chaco Cultural National Historical Park, a lot of people call it Chaco Canyon, up in northern New Mexico, and so the way their dwellings, they were not dwellings, but they're these circles that they would go, and it was all about the solstice and the equinox. So they lived
some
more
of them are circles too.
Yeah. these circular things. And so when you go up northern to Aztec, they have these kivas. They all have like the big kiva or these pueblos, but they're like circular. But then that's kind of more where they lived, and they had this really good water source and the Animas River. And then south is like they all like gathered there, and they do that every year now. A lot of the Pueblo people go and celebrate there. So it's like, what did they know? How did they know about the soul? You know what I mean? Going back.
Yes. Well, I think, sorry to interrupt, I think that we think of those cultures as not being very advanced, but in many ways they were so connected to the world around them and to the skies, because there was no pollution and they had fires to light their way. So they did follow the patterns of the planets and stars and the time frame of the seasons on Earth in a way that we really just aren't connected to now.
Yeah, I think that the more we learn, the more disconnected we tend to get. And I would think farmers are probably the most connected now, because they need to know about weather patterns and what the ground is doing and how it's feeling, and and the rest of us are kind of we just lost that connection.
Right. Well, and using the mounds really played into the supernatural, paranormal themes in the books, because there are these, and you were talking about going to parks and visiting places. There's a place in southern Indiana. I was just there this weekend, and I featured it in the book. It's called Browning Mountain, but I called it Greystone Mountain in the book. I do change the names of places. And there are these stones that are these huge rectangular stones as big as a VW car that are all fallen down on the ground, but it looks like it could have been a Stonehenge at one point on top of this hill. And there's no explanation for it. They can't figure out where the stones came from, why they're so uniform. So there's all these unexplained ideas, and I find that just really intriguing about what happened before and what did people know before that we may have lost.
Oh, yeah. See, I love that, because I believe there is, like, connection. Like, I'm weird.
Oh, yeah.
I know.
Really?
No, that's like, there are times, like, you could just, like, hug a rock. Okay, I hug trees, too. But, really just kind of feel the energy of a rock. And there is, I feel like they always say rocks are dead, and I don't believe that. I believe rocks are alive.
No.
And if we need to communicate with them.
Yes. Well, and that's part of the themes in all the books, is this idea of the universal energy field or the collective consciousness that is in everything, and that we're all connected. It's something that happens in Indonesia affects us here. A volcano exploding or weather patterns. It's the whole Earth is one system, and all of us are related.
I believe that. I mean, right now with the coronavirus and this quarantine, we're starting to realize, this is global, and all of it, we're all connected, and it's like, yes, we've been saying this for a while, but I want to touch on the supernatural too. Well, just that connectivity. It was really interesting. I think I sent you the link to Sufia Giza, was on our show. She wrote Mound Builders of Ancient America, and she was really working on her family history, and then dug into something there that just it's pretty a wild ride. But we knew we were on our way to we were going to go to Louisiana. We didn't know we were going to go to Little Rock yet, but we knew we were going to Louisiana. We wanted to go to some of the mounds out there. And I was like, oh, yeah, bring her on a show, and friends with her publicist. I'm like, yeah, this will be so cool. Well, all of a sudden we ended up in Little Rock, and everybody was like, oh, you got to do Toltec mounds. And so we went to Toltec, and it was this one afternoon. There was all these storms, summer storms happening, and we had this one little moment to run out there and do it, and we did. It was so humid. It was awesome. And what's interesting about these mounds, I think it's one of the largest ones on the south end of the Mississippi Valley. I could be wrong on that, but it was from the Plum Bayou people. And so the mounds are mostly, almost like they're trash, right? But then they had all these neat gardens, and we go to this whole thing, and it's all connected to DeSoto back in Florida. And, the history of this place is intense.
Right.
And I was like, this is trippy. They had their own little water area, little Oxbow River. And So I'm like, this is a trip. I go back to our hotel room, and lo and behold, this is the front cover of her book, exactly where we were.
Oh, yeah.
And I just knew, we should go to Mound, and we're going to interview her. And I wasn't prepared yet, you know. And I'm like, oh, my God, it's the same one. And then, then we ended up doing it. We went to Kentucky, and we had to turn around. And we had, there's things that happen on the road. And we went all the way back we drove from Kentucky to Colorado in one straight thing to make sure we got there for an interview. And the interview happened to be her mother's birthday. It was like, and her mom had recently passed. I mean, there was this whole thing of having to get to this interview, and it was like all these things were like swirling around us to make this interview happen, and it did, and it was one of the coolest conversations ever. It was crazy. So I think there are those things.
Interesting too about the connections, because everyone that I talked to when I was doing interviews for the field and when I meet with readers, and I'll ask them, haven't you had an experience where you felt a connection? Often it's parents who will say, I knew something was going on with my son or daughter. I called them, and yes, they needed me. Or one radio interviewer said he had a premonition about 9/11. It was recorded on his show. He didn't really know what it was, but then it happened, and it was recorded. So there was not any way for anyone to claim that it wasn't real. And everyone has had some kind of experience like that, like seeing the cover of the place that you just went, or knowing that your child, or the phone rings and it's someone that, and they used to call it ESP, but now it's this sort of connection that we all have.
Or that other part where you see something and you feel like you've been there before, but you really haven't, but you could swear you have been. I like that one.
Right. Well, and you could even, we could go down the rabbit hole with that. If you believe in, reincarnation or past lives, people often say that that's how you know about it,
Yeah, it is totally interesting. You know what I mean? When you think about it, it is, and that's what I love. That what you're writing about is, I think that science fiction to me, at the end of the day, none of it's going to be fiction, right? When it all comes out of the wash.
Yeah, that's so true. That's how I feel about it too.
Well, if you can think it up, then I believe it can exist.
Right.
Because you can think it up, then somewhere around the law, somebody's going to make that happen. It can happen if you think about it. And then you also you want to go down a rabbit hole, where does thought come from,
Right. Well, that's the thing. The premise, one of the premises in the book, that these two dig assistants, so she's on this archaeological dig in southern Indiana, these two mysterious dig assistants are there, and they are shamans, and they have all this ability and knowledge. And one of the things that they say is thought is the fastest and most powerful energy in the universe. So, and they can actually communicate with thought, so they're telepathic. And the idea is, that Marcy and her friends, that we all have these abilities, and that she's trying to develop them and figure out how to use them. And then, the real one of the other themes, as I know is important to you as well, is the whole environmental theme and what's happening to Earth and what's our responsibility to try and take care of the place that we live, really.
Well, I think it's important to have this going towards the youth, reading it, and and that doesn't mean adults can't read young adult fiction. Excuse me, right? It's fun.
Of course. So, I write it. I love it. Yeah.
I know it's great. I think it keeps us younger and more open to understanding youth as well by reading young adult books. And
you learn stuff.
Yeah, and it's an easier read at night. It's like, okay, give me my glass of wine and my novel. But with these topics, I think that you're writing about this for the youth to be able to read this, that they're already, they've got questions. I think there's a part of fear going on. You got to think about what's going on with the virus and how young people are going, of all ages, are probably scared as heck about their future because there's talk about more pandemics on the way. And you look at climate, the whole climate change, the global warming situation. I think it's all connected because the temperatures are changing. So, excuse me, bacteria will change, viruses will change their makeup because that's what they do. so they've got to have this fear, but being able to see this other like powerful side if you want to tap into things. And I think you're giving them some strength and also allowing them to open their minds wide.
Well, thank you. That's really what I'm intending. So I appreciate that. And you do see young people really stepping into their own. In some ways, they have less. I mean, they have this fear about the future, but they have less fear about stepping out there and making a difference. You see, Greta is a one that everyone knows, but there are dozens of young people from indigenous cultures, South America, who are all participating in trying to get the word out about climate change and saying, look, we can't just stand aside. The scientists are telling us that what we do is affecting the earth, and we have to do something about it. And really, we have the ability to do something about it if we just have the wherewithal to do it.
Well, the great thing about youngsters is that they have not been entwined deeply into finances, so they don't have that, I just invested in oil and gas, so I'm going to side with oil and gas, and too bad for the planet. They haven't done that, and I'm hoping that they will not do that.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that we can really count on them to do a lot of good stuff if we listen to them. And then there are obviously many adults. Yeah, and we help them. And there are many adults who are on board with it too, but it's changing sort of the status quo and how things have been done, and making a choice to do it. And some people just don't believe it, and we'll never reach those people. I don't think that it's worth trying to convince someone who doesn't believe that it's true.
Yeah, you know what? You can keep banging your head on the wall, and sometimes it's just really important to gain that traction and keep moving, because eventually people will follow. You can't, there's that rule. Was it the 20-30-40 rule, Nancy? Ralph Messinger always tells us you're going to have 20% that are on your side, 40 that are like, okay, I can sway either way, and there's a 30% that are just going to be against you no matter what you do, and that's just the law of life.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
And you just
once
can't
you learn
worry
that
about
law,
that.
It helps, because it's like, okay, and the 20%, they're on your side. Yeah, you got to take care of them, but not as much as the 40%. We got to work with the 40%.
Right. Exactly. I just find it hard to understand how people don't want to take care of the earth. I mean, you travel to all the parks, and I love to travel too. We go hiking in the parks in Indiana, every weekend, and it's just so beautiful and so wonderful. And we see trash in the rivers, and some people are just awful, and they. I don't know, what do they think is going to happen if you leave your plastic bottle in the forest preserve? It's going to stay there forever. So
and that is a product of how you are raised. Mm-hmm. And if you're not raised and you stick in that mindset of how you were raised and you never progress beyond how you were raised, then you're going to be the person throwing the plastic bottle in the river.
Right.
And then your children hopefully will look at you and say, hey, stop it. What are you doing?
And they do.
Because they're getting educated in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, each of my books has a different theme environmentally. So in the field, it was loosely focused on coal burning, and then comparing that to wind energy and solar, and then this other idea that Nikola Tesla, he was an inventor back in the early 1900s. He postulated this idea that any cubic inch of space in the universe, if we could access the energy in that area, it could power New York City for a day. So this whole idea of, well, maybe there's this other source of energy that we could access, that's sort of one of the science fiction aspects to it. And then in Catalyst, the one that's coming out in June, I'm focusing on fracking and how fracking is, poisoning the aquifers, causing earthquakes, and it's just so bad. And burning natural gas, it's still not a clean energy.
No.
So
They just had a big fight on that, on fracking outside Chaco Cultural National Historical Park, and when we were there, we're like, how could you even think of it? And, because, this is the other thing going back to Catalyst is you're teaching, this ancient history, the people's history, and the indigenous peoples, the true first peoples of this country. And so there's this, let me learn about their cultures. And, so now we're again, open-minded, open hearts. And I think that's the thing, too. Like fracking, you go like, how could you even, it's like the Dakota Access Pipeline. How could you, how do you, just because, we're going to do it under the water, there's still sand there. Oil and water doesn't mix.
It's still dangerous.
No.
Yeah.
It leaks all the time.
Yeah, but there's things that can be done. Like look at Dewey, Texas, the first place to go and do fracking and the first place to say we will never do it again.
Exactly.
So.
Right.
Yeah,
they did on the coast of England too. Mm-hmm. And England said that's enough of that.
A lot of places are doing it. Yep, a lot of places are doing it. And then, they pump in carcinogenous chemicals into the earth unregulated, and then there are the tanks that evaporate all the chemicals into the air, and then we release methane gas into the water, and people literally can light their wells on fire. It's just nothing good about it at all.
It's so stupid and short-sighted. I mean, it is so dumb.
When you look at fracking, it's like somebody with machines going around and farting up the planet. It really is. That's how I look at it.
A dumb thing to do. It's so obvious that it's so dumb.
I know.
And I don't understand anybody in favor of it.
I love that you talk about solar and wind, and even with that, we have to be, aware of how to do those the best way as well. I know where we are out here in the desert, there's been some wars over it, and just because solar doesn't mean all of it is good. It's got to be in the right hands and managed, properly.
And where it's placed.
Yeah,
sure.
But Tracy, where did all of this start for you? I mean, were you raised in an environmentally conscious family?
No, not particularly. I went to college I was going to be a doctor, basically, and I have a biology degree. So I've always been a science geek and just am fascinated with that sort of thing and really love the outdoors and really value that. And so over time, it's just become apparent to me what we're doing and how we need to do a better job. And I think for me, the title of the book is Catalyst. So the idea is, thank you. Titles are hard. So I was really happy to come up with that one. But Marcy and her friends are catalysts. And I want to be able to do something to have a positive impact. And so this is my way of doing it, by writing these books. And, they're fun, interesting, exciting books. They're not just all about this environmental stuff. There's drama, there's romance. But for me, it's just something that I feel like I want to make a difference. And this is something that I know. I really understand the science and the biology. And I think I do a fairly good job of communicating that to the readers. At least I try. So
I think
that's where I got.
I like your style, and I feel like young people reading the book, I think you're voicing a lot of how they feel, which I think is really important for them, because I think when you look at Greta Thunberg and having so I don't want to say world leader anyway, people in power who take oh boy who don't have enough sense to listen just because she's young and she's actually intelligent. The bravery that she shows is amazing. And so books like yours are going to help young adults like that. And when they have to go up against ignorant people, they need to feel that there's backup for them.
And make them and have that time to enjoy too, to kind of like, it shouldn't always be such hard work, when you make a change and fight for change, it's always hard, but then you want to be able to go, feel good, you know what I mean? You have to have that feel good moment to move forward. So that's the other part.
Well, and that's a good point.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Well, I was going to say that's a good point. By using story, I feel like it's like parables. You can convey these ideas and thoughts in a story that's entertaining and is really powerful because it's in action. I'm not just spewing facts and figures. It's this actual experience that they're having. And I did a lot of research into fracking and its impacts, and I did a lot of research into the Native American mound building culture. So I'm not saying that this is, a factual book necessarily, but it's true, I guess I would say. So it's a way to get that across, I think. Story is a powerful teacher.
Well, then you're the catalyst. That we talk about that with what we do. It's like we've, as of our shows and the magazine over the years, and we're starting to feel a little ancient here now. But we've learned because we've got tied up into so many causes. Whether it's the wild horses, national parks. I mean, that's how we ended up on the tour. We saw a family in the Everglades, and the little kid dropped his soda can in with the alligators on the Anhinga Trail, and nobody did anything. And I'm like, well, who's going to do what? And then you want to say something. Do you not?
Yes.
So we realize it's education, but then we get on that thing where suddenly, everybody, we start beating our drum really loud on this cause, and then here comes another cause, and you can burn out. And we realize it is we actually had a couple of friends who are like, Nancy, Lisa, your job is to be the catalyst, to be the starter, the ignition to the informant. And I think that's the beauty of your book. The word catalyst is there ain't no fire without a catalyst. There's nothing happens with that, catalytic converter.
Well, I hope you're right, and I really appreciate the sentiment. Thank you. Yeah, and then the one that's coming out in next year, Indian Summer, it's actually a prequel. So it's when Marcy, the character in Catalyst, who's a junior in high school in Catalyst, it's when she's in middle school, and she's actually trying to stop development of an old-growth forest on her grandparents' lake, not on their property, but on property on the lake where they live. And that was fun to write because in that I read some books about trees and how they communicate with each other, like through their roots and through their scents and stuff. And so that brings that whole collective consciousness connection into the forefront as well. So I sort of made the trees this character in the book in a way, which was fun.
Oh my gosh, I want to read that. I geek out on that, because we are part tree. We've got tree DNA in us, and it's really neat. Have you read The Secret Life of Plants?
I read The Secret Life of Trees, and I got some cool information from that. Or it's either The Secret Life or The Hidden Life of Trees. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's,
Oh,
it's
really
written by a fellow who's like a park ranger in the Netherlands or something. He manages this forest, and he's got great stories to tell.
Ooh. The Secret Life of Plants was written in the 70s.
That's really good.
And, you talk about, the catalyst and the whole connectivity and thought, right, the power of thought. So they did experiments, and sorry, listeners, because I always talk about this. They did experiments, and people have done it now. Like, here's a plant, and you go yell at the plant, and this is plant over there, you're nice to it, and play music for it. And there's a difference that, if you're mean to a plant, it will die. But they took 3 leaves, like a number of leaves, pulled them off a plant, and they put it next to their bed, and one guy did, put it next to the bed, and meditated on the plant, the leaves, pulled off the plant, there's no water, no food, meditated on the plant before he went to bed and when he woke up, so he had this communication. They took the other leaves, just pulled them off and left them, same type of lighting and all that. These are all scientists who did it, and those died, right? Those leaves lived through meditation. Yeah.
It's really remarkable. Yeah, it is.
That's cool.
I've read experiments where they could, I don't exactly can't describe how they did the experiments, but they had some kind of monitors on the plants, and the plants reacted when they were connected to their owners, and they reacted when bad things happened, like the owner put his hand in the fire or something like that, and the plant had a reaction. I mean, it's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it, but it goes back to your hugging the trees and hugging the rocks, and the fact that there's consciousness in everything. We just don't value that.
See, that's exactly it. Yeah, I wonder now, do you think, like, here we are all quarantined in, and you start to look around your house, start looking around your garden, do you think that and we understand now walking is good, why our dogs want to be taken out for walks, do you think we're starting to get that lesson? Like, I almost feel like Mother Earth is shaking us and saying, come on, people, what do you really need in life?
Well, and I don't want to make light of the coronavirus
at
all
at
by
all.
saying this, but I do think that when terrible things happen, sometimes really good things come of them.
Yeah.
And so my hope is that people do take a look at what is really important and what do I want to focus on? Do I even want to go back to that job that I was furloughed from or laid off from, or do I want to come home for dinner every night? Do I want to get out in nature? Is nature important to save? So yes, I completely agree with you.
Yeah, it's an interesting time, just the whole, I don't know, I think it's interesting of what it's doing with corporate entities as well, and it's just, there's a lot of shifting and shaking and bailing out of things again, but we'll see how it goes.
It's interesting to see how different companies are reacting. A company that my son works for has furloughed their employees, but they are keeping their hourly employees, their service employees. They're not waiters and waitresses.
Yeah.
But they're still paying them their salary, and they're letting them keep their health insurance. So This is a company that, is valuing their employees. And then you have other companies who just lay everyone off. Big companies, just lay everyone off. We don't care about you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Powell's just hired 100 people because all their books are being sold off the shelves. I was talking about that yesterday. I think that's the coolest thing.
Oh,
like
really?
Bookstores.
That is cool.
I think it's sad for authors and musicians and anyone in the arts. But at the same time, the arts are saving our butts as we, sit at home and watch music and read books and go to, virtually go to museums and all these cool things. But we do need to support the arts, and that's the thing. So I like to see that books are being bought, and I'm hoping people are doing more than just stream free music. And
the Field is an ebook. You can get the Field as an ebook. So if you don't want to order it, you can download it onto your device and read it that way.
See, this is cool. If you could do double doozies. So Catalyst comes out the 2nd of June, right? For everyone to go get it.
Yes, for ebooks. Yes, you can pre-order, and you can pre-order the print book as well. And I should say about the series, Catalyst is not a sequel to the Field. It has the same characters or some of the same characters in the same family, but they are standalone books. You don't have to read the Field to read Catalyst. They're kind of a family of books.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that kind of feels good. Yeah, that's neat. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want them to be turned into like a movie or like a series?
Oh, well, of course I do.
Well, you never know.
Yes.
Some people are like, no, it's a horrible idea.
Oh, no. I think, and when I write, I see the scenes or the chapters as scenes. And I had a radio interview last year, and one of the other guests was a screenwriter, and he said that because I write visually, I would be a good screenwriter. And I thought, well, how could you write if you didn't write visually? I actually see the characters and I see the scene. So he said it would be a good candidate for a movie. So my publisher is working on that, and they say that takes quite a while. So fingers crossed. We'll see what happens.
I think, because I think it's really cool when you can do that kind of, because again, it gets the youth and the adults together.
I like the idea of it being a TV series.
Yeah, like a Netflix.
Oh, yeah,
because
that would be great.
There's ongoing problems, so you could just tackle one problem every week.
Yeah,
get this.
I love that. Yeah,
and having Marcy in there too, because that's the other thing is you're showing, both, Marcy and Eric, but I think it's always good to have a woman in there kicking butt too. I think we still have a lot of ways to go, and start when they're young.
Yeah. Well, she was 12 in the first one, and she definitely kicks butt in that one. And then the one I'm writing next, that is after Catalyst chronologically is going to be from both Marcy and Eric's perspective, and they're continuing their mission as catalysts. So we'll see how that goes. I tried to write Catalyst from both their perspective, and I just did a really crummy job. My brothers were like, "No, this doesn't work, Tracy. You need to redo this." So I'm going to try again this time.
As a writer, do you does biology? And did you write like as a kid too? Is that something that developed like over time?
I was never a creative writer, but I was always a huge reader, and I'm a creative person in general. I guess you could say I like to say a maker. So I knit and I sew and I do cross stitch and I paint and I cook and I'll garden and all that sort of thing. So I'm always, in fact, I just ordered some more craft projects to do during this whole quarantine time. But no, I wasn't a writer. I started writing when my children were in elementary school, and they started reading all the books that I loved growing up, and I started just getting ideas for stories. It's like you said too about writing for young adults. It's such a great time in your life. It's like all these possibilities are available to you, and you feel like you can do all these cool things or do anything. So it's a cool time. And I wrote Indian Summer first.
Wow.
I've had to I revised it quite a bit because it needed to be revised. It was my first book. So and I wrote that when my children were in middle school, and so Marcy's in middle school. And then I wrote The Field when my children were in high school, and Eric is in high school. So they're way into their 20s at this point. But I'm hoping that I can still get that voice pretty accurately. The characters are getting older. They're starting to get into college, some of them too, which is, I've been told from my publisher that librarians like that because as the readers age, then the characters age too.
Yeah. Because even now when you start doing the TV series or the Netflix or Hulu series or whichever, or Amazon, who knows, your characters are going to age too.
Yeah. How do we make this happen, ladies? Let's do it.
I don't know, but we could just you start putting our brain power and start focusing. It's like
we'll just meditate
start
on it like the leaves, right?
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, I like that. And and then I'm going to meditate on this beautiful palm tree that's outside here. I'm going to meditate on it and say, okay, now you're going to raise money that can go to everybody that needs it right now.
I love that.
The country,
I love that. But there are, in terms of that whole idea of thought being so powerful, you don't have to be religious to think about prayer or thought or intention. I mean, there are a lot of people who are spending time every day focusing on the health of Earth and the planet and the people, and I believe that works and that it's powerful.
Yeah. Well, at least it feels good too. Mm-hmm. To connect and center. I'm annoying in the fact that I want everyone up in the morning. They don't have to, but Nancy, sometimes I wake her up a little too early, and because I want to start with the sunrise. And the sunrise, I look at it and I reflect and I connect, and I'm like, I was touched by the sun this morning, and now I feel good. See, there's like I don't know. Yeah. It's like this will be good, man. So as much as we can when the sun is there, but it's not that hard out in the desert. But I was going to ask about writing and biology. Do you draw creativity from looking at what nature and biology, and even just looking at how cells move around and how nature has this beautiful patterns and symmetry? I mean, it's like every time I look at anything, it's like, wow, like I want to paint that or make it into a design, but Mother Nature really did it.
Yes, I do think that scientists have to be creative. In fact, there's one of the famous quotes from Einstein is that imagination is more important than knowledge. And so, yes, I do get inspiration from nature. It's just amazingly beautiful and intricate. And that's another theme in all of the books is that there's more to the universe than meets the eye. We just have really no idea what we don't even know. And so
exactly.
I find it awe-inspiring and amazing and beautiful. And I do get inspiration from it all the time.
Awesome. It's funny because we limit ourselves. Yeah, I've always thought people say if you step on an insect, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't have a blood system, and it doesn't have this, it doesn't have that. And I'm thinking it may not hurt to you or the way we feel, but the idea that insects don't feel pain seems very odd to me.
Right.
I
right.
really
How
don't
would we even know
it.
that? How would we know that? It gets to be tricky because, if you think plants have some kind of sentience, then we eat plants. What do we eat then? Do we just eat things that fall on the ground? So I think it's kind of tricky to think about those kinds of things because we do have to survive and we are creating.
Yeah, I think it's more convenient to make assumptions because then we don't have to feel bad about anything.
Yeah.
Right.
No, it's true. It's true. Wow. Well, Tracy, it has been such a pleasure having you on the show. I think you know what? I have a question for you because we have this thing about going out and taking a 1 hour walk. We have a whole Facebook group for it. Everyone hashtag 1 hour walk on Facebook. Join us. We just everyone posts their photos from where they're walking, and I know right now the one thing we can do is much just you can spy on your neighbor and. You know what I mean? check out who's growing what. It's cool. As best you can. Obviously, keep physical distance at 6 feet and everything. But if you could take a 1 hour walk anywhere in the world or anywhere space, where would you go and who would you take that walk with? If you could choose anyone to just go and really connect and have a really cool conversation. It could be fictional. It could be, anyone from the past, alive, gone. But we know they're never really gone.
Right. Wow, that's so hard to answer. There's so many places. I guess my mom passed away about 10 years ago, and I would love to have an opportunity to walk. I would say it's not nature, but I would walk in Paris because it's just a magical place. And it is. There's lots of gardens and trees, but I just spent, I told you earlier before we got on the show that I spent the weekend in Brown County, Indiana, which is southern Indiana, rolling hills. It's gorgeous. And we hiked in the woods every day. So, there's so many places to go. I can't really pinpoint, but if I had to pick just something, it would be my mom in Paris, probably.
That sounds awesome. That's awesome. Well, we want to thank you for joining us. Tomorrow, everybody will be back on, and it's a good answer for what we're doing tomorrow's show. Tomorrow, we're having our happy hour show. We love our wine.
Woo-hoo.
I know, and we're raising a glass to noteworthy women in history. We have Amy Dugan from Greeley, Colorado. Visit Greeley up in northeast Colorado, joining us to talk about Rattlesnake Kate. That's a whole crazy story. Linda Kassam, the food, wine, shopping diva. We have Lee Brovidani, the trust the trust architect, and Kelly West from Natchitoches, Louisiana. And she knows about mounds, too, the effigy mounds up by her.
Right.
Yep, near Monroe, Louisiana. So, everyone, you can join us tomorrow for April Fool's Day. But the women we're talking about ain't no fools. So check us out at BigBlendRadio.com. Keep up with Tracy and her books. Of course, there's Catalyst, okay? You can get that. And also, go get The Field. You can download that now and also watch for Indian Summer. Just go to her website, TracyRichardsonAuthor.com. Of course, Amazon, all those places as well. And we love to play the right music for our guests and, of course, you, the listeners. We have this song. It's called Taval. It's by Evren Ozan. It's off of his album Alluvia, and Tracy he was on a road trip with his mom, and they stopped in the Grand Canyon. He walked in and paid for a Native American flute. He was 9 years old with his pocket money and started playing literally. And he channels when he plays. It's weird.
Yeah.
You've seen him take his hands off to brush a fly away from his face, and it's playing notes.
Wow.
We've
well, that's a whole other conversation about channeling my writing too.
Oh, cool. I know what you mean. Yeah. So you're a downloader.
I think so. Yeah. I think so.
It's so cool that happens. Yeah. He turned lights off in places where he'd play. Anyway, now he's a pilot and a skateboard player. But anyway, he's been on. In the National Geographic, he's in the NAMIs, all of that good stuff. So one of those young adults that do amazing work. He goes to schools and recreates powwows and all that good stuff. So you can learn more about Evren. It's Evren Ozan. Go to his website, ozanmusic.com. But here it is, Taval. Thanks so much, Tracy. You take care.
You too. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.